In a related development, Dr. Papa said government should introduce a full pricing control mechanism as well as cut down expenditure to manage the situation. It appears that government cannot do much to stop these skyrocketing numbers, but is it feasible if government interferes in full price adjustment as an alternative to manage the rising inflation rate? We're joined via Zoom by petroleum strategist Dr. Yusuf Sulemana with some answers. We're grateful, Dr. you could join us. What do you make of the call on government to, implement a full pricing control mechanism to control inflation?
Yeah, thank you very much, and good afternoon to you, Charles, and to your cherished viewers in Ghana and across the globe. In times like this, I think it requires desperate measures. Desperate developments require desperate measures, but they have to be strategic. And so, with the thought of introducing a kind of control mechanism into the fuel pricing regime, it's not out of place. It's just that we have to tackle it strategically. Why I'm saying that is that we should not do anything that will destabilize the policy of deregulation. However, we should also leave deregulation at the point in time where deregulation is becoming powerless in terms of bringing control into the system. So what I think is we could think about looking at a kind of subsidies that will come like on temporary basis. Let's say the government can tell that, okay, deregulation is working. This deregulation hasn't gone to sleep, but I want to regulate some portions of the market that will bring about, some cushioning into the poor consumer. I think if that is done, that is the way to go. Because at the end of the day, if the poor consumer is cushioned, consumer spending will be stimulated, and I think it will translate to higher economic growth. But that's a double-edged sword because deregulation has helped the nation at the downstream side. Look at what happened prior to deregulation. We used to have fuel shortages. So if there's any single thing that has happened to the market, especially the downstream, that has helped the downstream to balloon to control about 6 to 7% of the GDP, it's deregulation. We can't take that away from deregulation. But I keep saying that we don't leave a policy down that requires adjustment and leave it that the market should be. The market should control itself. Some certain times you don't leave market forces to control itself. You can come in, make some few adjustments temporarily, and see how the market will respond. Especially when those adjustments will lead to a stimulation of economic growth. I think that should be the way to go. But I don't support the idea we interfering 100% to put deregulation to sleep. No, we cannot do that. But we can do a kind of partial and strategic interference in a way by the government of the day, where a poor consumer should be the main focus to be pushing. And the reason why it's very good to cushion consumer at this stage is because of the inflationary pressures. If a consumer pays a lot at the pump, it translates to high inflation because goods and services will definitely go high. And when goods and services go high, that fits into the inflation figures. And so it's not a surprising thing that we are seeing the inflation as we see today. It's because goods and services are very expensive.
Indeed.
And because the cost of energy is very expensive, yeah.
Indeed, but of course, Ghana is an oil-producing country, and we have seen the fluctuation in oil prices on a global scale. From your perspective, do you think that we have dealt with the windfall strategically enough to, cushion consumers?
No, this is a very good one, Charles. I think we could do better. I have called time with that number that Ghana as a nation, we have lost a lot of opportunities. We've lost beautiful opportunities that could have, that beautiful strategy that we could have implemented to cushion the consumer at times like this. And why am I saying that? If you're an oil producer and then you produce oil, then you export all the oil, and then you end up importing the derivative, let's say the finished product of the oil, the byproduct of the oil, you will not have a strategic advantage at all. You will not have that. And that's how come, if you observe our part of the world, whenever oil prices are taking the bullish turn, we complain. When oil prices are taking the bearish turn, we complain because we haven't had a strategy. What is the strategy here? We have to be able to link up the upstream and downstream seamlessly, because at the point in time, there will only be windfalls. When we have bullish momentum as we have it now, when oil prices are skyrocketing, we shouldn't be complaining too much if you're a producer. But if you don't strategize, you complain like we are doing. If oil prices are dropping drastically, we shouldn't be complaining too much if you strategize. So what is the way forward? I have called that the government of the day or whatever, whoever controls the economy as we speak now, should make concerted effort to link up the upstream and downstream together. And when you do that and there are windfalls, you can easily pass the windfall from upstream to downstream. And if you quite remember, we've done that in the other way around. There was a time when oil prices collapsed, 2016, thereabout, 2015, 2016, thereabout. We introduced what we call SPD, that is Special Petroleum Tax. And what it was meant to do was just pushing us from the potential revenue that we're going to lose from the upstream side, because oil prices will collapse. This is the direct invest. Why don't we do that? All right, but we need to have a formula in place. Okay, if the formula in place and it is strategic, when the windfalls are coming, the formula will kick in, to cushion the poor consumer.
As always, we're grateful for your analysis on this development. Dr. Yusuf Sulemana is a petroleum strategist. Well.